Some crimes are so shocking and controversial that they force us to examine who we are as a society. But with thousands of crimes committed daily, how does one particular crime become a cultural moment?
Just another frenzied day for the swarms of journalists feasting on the story of the decade.
Welcome to WatchMojo's series, The Evolution of True Crime. For this episode, we're looking at iconic crimes and their lives in the media. We can define crimes of the century through examples. The Black Dahlia, the Unabomber, the Casey Anthony trial. These sensational crime stories generate culture-wide discussions about the meaning of good and evil, truth, justice, and moral responsibility.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
A crime of the century is a story, and the way the media tells this story affects how we understand it, and in turn, how justice is executed.
You can only imagine the pressure to have this crime solved.
A lot of people didn't do their jobs.
We falsely convicted them, and we walked away from our crime.
Of course, there have been highly publicized crimes throughout history. The Jack the Ripper murders, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid's famed robberies, the Lincoln assassination. But the term trial of the century was first used in reference to the Lizzie Borden case of 1893. Borden was charged with the slaying of her father and stepmother in their shared home near Boston. The brutality of the act, rumors of a strained relationship between Lizzie and her stepmother, and the affluence of the family all placed this case at the forefront of crime convo. How could a fine young lady blast a hatchet through her parents' heads after all?
Did you kill father?
Police misconduct, a botched investigation, and improperly documented evidence led to Borden's acquittal, leaving her the, quote, happiest woman in the world. But not without swirling rumors and public speculation. To this day, Lizzie remains the prime suspect in this case.
I am innocent. I leave it to my counsel to speak for me.
Theories about her psychological state or motive have spiraled in the media for decades, ranging from fugue states to a relationship with her maid, or revenge for being asked to wash windows on a hot day. While the facts of that day have perhaps died with the victims and with Borden herself, legends surrounding this mystery, this justice unserved, endure well into the 21st century. Fact and fiction blend in imagination. Is this a story of a feisty young woman seeking control of her house? A psychopath who walks calmly among the upper echelons of New England society? An elaborate ruse to cover sinister or socially upsetting truths? The story has taken on many lives in the media, casting the reality of events in different hues for the entertainment of consumers.
Give me the hatchet. God damn it, Maggie, give me the hatchet.
So what sets this crime apart? Why is this a crime of the century? Well, let's look at the themes. Extreme violence, allegedly committed by an atypical perpetrator, an affluent young woman, involving members of the upper class. Violent crime in a quiet neighborhood, police misconduct, and explosive legal results deemed contentious by the court of public opinion. It's mystifying and shocking. Other infamous cases also touch on these same themes. Think the Lindbergh kidnapping, the O.J. Simpson murder trial, and the wrongful conviction of Amanda Knox.
Do you know anything?
No. I don't. I wasn't there.
Again, with these cases, there is a difference between the core facts, the legal truth, and the narrative webs woven by the media.
It's a business for the media. It's a business for the people selling t-shirts. It's a business of selling fame, selling gore, selling attachment to something bigger than yourself.
But all crime stories are not covered equally, and this can be attributed to a range of factors. For one, cameras were not always allowed in courtrooms. After Bruno Hauptmann, the Lindbergh kidnapper, appealed his case in 1935, alleging that aggressive media coverage had poisoned his jury against him, state legislation was amended to restrict photography in courtrooms. While the judge dismissed Hauptmann's claim, he did raise a good point. The way evidence and the accused are presented can manipulate their significance to those who perceive them. This is true in both trials and in the media. After Hauptmann, many but not all states banned live broadcasting altogether. But these restrictions effectively ended in 1981 after a case in Florida where filming was permitted saw two police officers charged with burglary argue that live coverage of their case would deny them a fair trial.
Although you can look around the courtroom and not see the camera,
the participants will know, and then the distortion process sets in.
The case went to the Supreme Court, which ultimately found that the Constitution does not block broadcasting in courtrooms, and the risk of jurors being influenced does not provide enough grounds to ban courtroom broadcasting. This ruling allowed states more freedom to experiment with filming and broadcasting trials live. While this legal history may seem a bit dry, it's important because it effectively created a whole new genre of true crime going into the 80s and 90s: gavel-to-gavel broadcasting, trials on TV.
Did you kill your father?
Absolutely not.
There was dead silence in the crowded courtroom, all but the unwavering voice of a teenager professing his innocence.
We see this first in the 1987 trial of Joel Steinberg, a disbarred lawyer, and his wife, Hedda Nussbaum, charged with the murder of their illegally adopted daughter.
About 36 people carrying candles for Lisa, hoping the flame will ignite some changes in the city's adoption system.
Nussbaum received legal immunity for her testimony, the defense arguing that her complicity in the murder was the result of battered woman syndrome.
He isolated me from my whole family. For several years I didn't see them, and from all my friends. This is typical of abusers do that.
This is a highly emotional case, which brought issues of domestic violence and criminal responsibility to the forefront of public discourse. Additionally, the characters involved are successful, educated people. The drama of the story plays off of the disparity between their bright image and their secret horrors. And most significantly, it centers on the tragic, senseless death of a child. The case created a media frenzy, and stemming from this gavel-to-gavel phenomenon, we see many similar high-profile trials broadcast this way in the 80s and 90s. Pamela Smart, the high school teacher who had 4 students murder her husband in the early 90s, is one example.
The verdict spells a giant relief for the family and friends of Gregory Smart, the victim in one of the most publicized trials ever in New Hampshire.
Court TV was launched in 1991 and focused on live courtroom footage with commentary by anchors. The channel rose to prominence with their coverage of the trials of Lyle and Eric Menendez in 1994, convicted of killing their parents, and then the O.J. Simpson trial the following year.
I didn't know who the suspect was. Anybody could have been the suspect at that point.
Of course, we can't talk about crimes of the century without talking about the O.J. phenomenon. This is a major turning point for true crime. From the infamous Bronco chase to if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit, this story made true crime radically mainstream, no longer a niche mystery subgenre. The viral moments from this case, the clash of characters, his curated celebrity image versus the portrait painted by the prosecution, took on a new life on screens around the world.
In the United States, and particularly in California, journalists can cover a court case as freely as they might cover football. The trial by media is in top gear.
In fact, more people watched the Bronco chase than the Super Bowl that year. And when the trial's verdict was broadcast live on TV, over 150 million people tuned in. In other words, about 57% of the American population. The stranger-than-fiction true crime saga was beyond a sensation in its time, and beyond the veneer of a celebrity whodunit. The trial spoke to larger issues of race and class within the justice system, and brought these questions into mainstream discourse.
Why would someone set him up?
Because he got money, they want to see him broke.
During the trial, scheduled broadcasts were cut to feature coverage of OJ-related affairs, and while viewers initially expressed annoyance, over time, we see significant overlap between soap opera viewership and viewership of live trials. This is interesting because, in many ways, the Simpson trial set the stage for this crossing of genres, the TV drama and true crime documentary, blending fiction and nonfiction. Because what followed that decade and into today are new directions of true crime that lean away from previous genre conventions like reenactment and detective stories into formats that effectively combined dramas written for TV with the purported objectivity of live footage, offering the depth of fact in the dressing of a soap opera.
The last time that you saw Paul and Maggie's when y'all were eating supper? Yes, sir.
Public interest in the Simpson trial created a legacy for the coverage of other high-profile crimes well into the 21st century, and significantly, established a public appetite for these types of stories. One direction we can trace this shift is the emergence of reality court shows like Judge Judy, Divorce Court, and The People's Court, revived in 1997. These shows feature comparatively banal legal cases, presented with personal drama and characterizations woven in.
Real cases before a real judge.
And now, enter the courtroom of Judge Mathis.
While the cases are real and the characters are non-actors, these shows are cast and cut to make exciting TV.
Hey, I'm talking.
Okay, my apologies, Miss Girl.
Miss who?
She's not a girl. It's Miss Toller.
It's Judge Toller. Be quiet. I have a question.
In addition to starting this new wave, the OJ trial also had an educational impact on the American public. The immense coverage of this trial of the century led to much greater awareness and understanding of how the legal system actually works, and educated audiences about its jargon and proceedings.
The entire country's been mesmerized by this case. People are riveted on it, on every bit of information and every bit of pseudo-information.
So the target demographic for this type of content was geared up and ready to go. The post-OJ wave of courtroom reality TV reproduced a few key elements of that live trial viewing experience, namely, an organic whodunit structure that audiences could anticipate, judges and participants cast for their charisma and entertainment value, and at the end of every segment, a verdict. But the issues unpacked in these shows are not focused on celebrity murders, car chases, however slow, or explosively controversial evidence. These shows look mostly at divorce and custody issues, property law, small claims.
I don't give a rat's behind about what you're going to show me. I'm not giving you another penny.
We said before that not all crimes are covered equally, and this remains true. These are not crimes of the century, but this wave of genre TV is just one example of the impact a trial of the century can have. The Simpson trial changed the landscape of an entire medium and created massive public awareness of the justice system. And, perhaps most importantly, it highlighted how the media is an industry that must always work to replicate its own success. It goes both ways. Our hunger for this type of media pushes content creators to make more of it, which creates a broad landscape of constant crime coverage, which distorts our impression of real-life crime and its prevalence.
A look at what's fueling a new wave of gang violence in New York City.
And now the body count's never enough.
There is also evidence to suggest that the Simpson trial increased public appetite for the relatively new 24-hour news cycle. CNN launched in 1980, but its ratings increased 500% over the course of the trial, with viewers seeking constant updates. In their ordinary lives, most people seldom interact with crime, mostly learning about major events and statistics through the media. 24-hour coverage of true crimes, trials, and even fictional crime dramas creates an exaggerated impression of its prevalence in real life. For example, in the 90s, we see a sharp uptick in media coverage of crime overall, while actual crime was in decline across the United States. While shows like Cops or The People's Court and much daily news coverage are not about crimes of the century, we can see how a major case like the O.J. Simpson trial can send ripples through our media landscape and in turn affect our perception of the justice system and crime itself.
I think justice was served. Not everyone here is happy, however.
So why does any of this matter? Well, just as fact and narrative blend in the courtroom to determine legal truth, the same dynamic plays out in the ways that media controls these stories, on both sides of the political spectrum. This is not a big conspiracy theory about indoctrination. It's about looking at the bigger picture, beyond CNN, beyond Cops, beyond O.J. Simpson. And even if no one is sitting watching 3 hours of live trials every day, the larger landscape of crime media creates a slanted impression of the pervasiveness of crime, who commits it, and how it affects the day-to-day lives of its viewership. These impressions play into people's feelings about the effectiveness of the criminal justice system, as well as political questions about the death penalty, sentencing, and police funding.
Bail reform is a divisive topic. We want to help you understand what's happening on our streets.
Because crimes of the century are not isolated events, but are connected to the biggest questions of the culture at that moment.
Our audience has been here most of the morning waiting to see the verdict, and lots of people, as you saw, had some pretty strong reactions.
We can see how the Harvey Weinstein scandal contributed to the rise of Me Too and cancel or accountability culture.
Survivors and activists calling the verdict a moment of reckoning for the Me Too movement. Rose McGowan tweeting, "Today is a powerful day and a huge step forward in our collective healing." Derek Chauvin's murder trial spoke to deep historical issues of race and police brutality, and how the justice system repeatedly fails people of color.
They are dying! They are killing our people! Change has to happen!
A crime becomes a crime of the century because of the questions it raises. Who are we? How do we define good and evil? How do we define justice? How do we make our society a better place?
This is real life. This woman really died.
But as we chew on these heavy hitters, we also need to keep in mind that there is a difference between the truth and what we see on TV. Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.